Good morning, good evening, good day, wherever you're watching from. Hello, thanks for joining me. I'm Lima, and this is going to be another Broken Academy video where we're going to be looking at decks. So 1.09 has come out. It was long awaited because we were hoping that it would actually fix some of the issues the game faces. However, this has not been the case. All it has managed to do is make all of my perfectly balanced maxed out decks now over budget. So as you can see over here, I can't use anything that I could use before. So a lot of that is because Broken Arrow has decided that the best thing to do is not fix people leaving, people cheating and all those issues, but to make everything slightly more expensive. Good job, boys. Actually really annoyed me so far, not gonna lie. So let's have a look. The deck that I wanted to talk to you today about, which is a video that I had planned anyway. People have been asking me for a Guards Moto deck, and here it is. Here is as you can see, because of the update, it is now invalid, so we're going to be fixing it on the fly. Now, as you can see, this deck is obviously still a fantastic combination, the Guards and the Motostrzałki, one of the best for Russia. I'd potentially say it's the Tanks VDV, but Aggressive is what we're going to be looking at today. Now, it is called Aggressive because that is how you should play it. Whenever you select a deck, cool new icon for the SU24 by the way, but whenever you select a deck and whenever you build one, you should have an idea in mind of how the deck is going to work, how you're going to use it, and how you're going to make the most out of the units in the deck. So yeah, it is appropriately named Aggressive because that is exactly how I want all of these guys to behave. So you see obviously a heavy amount of tanks, cheap tanks, obviously with the exception of the arena, for the heavy breakthroughs and stuff like that. So let's have a quick look at what we have, starting with the Recon tab as always. So Diversanti, which I don't really know, is it assault? Does that mean assault in Russian? I'm not 100% sure. Assaulters? Diversanti, right, okay. So they're a good bit of infantry, but only in the ambushes loadout. Thank God they haven't increased the price of this because it is already overpriced. You definitely don't want these guys in the informers because even though they get a laser, which is pretty useful, in this deck I'm not going to be around long enough to laser targets and shoot them. Instead, ambushes is 100% how you want them set up because you set these guys up in the rear lines like the SAS, send them up in the rear lines to blow up enemy vehicles before they even reach their the front line. Now, this isn't a huge amount of damage on the RPG-30, but as some of you guys might already know, the RPG-30 is not destroyable by APS, so active protection does fire, but this is a two-stage warhead, meaning that the first stage will get destroyed by APS, the second stage will do this damage to vehicles. So 650 penetration, not a lot unless you shoot in the sides or especially the rear. And obviously every squad has 4 of these, so 4 will fire almost at the same time, and to be honest this is more than enough to kill 1 Abrams. So yeah, happy days. In an ambush position, these guys are fantastic. You get a couple of these squad, maybe, or just 3 or 4 of them in the back lines on a speedy boomerang or whatever, and you can do a serious amount of damage. It'll also be a short while before the enemy actually notices, depending on how far back you get these guys set up. So yeah, really fantastic squad. Ambushes is the perfect name for them. So they are transported on the K16, on the boomerang. It's 45 points. It is literally my cheap little infantry carrier. 8 seats, pretty decent, some armor. Yeah, this is just a little troop ferry for me, so not much more to say about it. It is upgradable, and we'll talk about that in the next tab. A scout vehicle. So the laser doesn't have a laser. So lasers have been increased from 2,400 to 3,000 meters, but for vehicles only, which I find is weird because a laser shouldn't really have any restrictions. Really, like I know, you know, power fades with distance, light intensity fades with distance, but yeah, snipers should have a strong laser as well with a decent range. It's a bit annoying that they haven't increased that. Anyway, BRM, I love this vehicle. I love 57mm cannons, as regular viewers of this channel might well know. And to be honest, this is just a good little recon fighting vehicle. The range, optical range, isn't too great. It's a normal infantry recon squad, like the Spetsnaz GRU, who we'll get onto in a second. But what you obviously love about this thing is that it has slightly higher stealth for vehicles. Usually they're 1. So slightly higher, and the 57 just absolutely rips helicopters apart. So 1100 range with a rapid little chain gun. Yeah, and it also has some 80 gems as well. Now these attackers fire close to the same time, and yeah, I do really like enjoying this vehicle, enjoy using this vehicle, and it's very, very good for supporting tank pushes. So this is why you have it. You absolutely do want it decked out in the higher setup. You don't want this. That is pretty, I mean, super cheap, but pretty useless. You definitely want it in the higher spec, and you do want the extra armor on it for sure. Right, Spetsnaz GRU, one of the few units affected by the increased price of 1.09. Probably my least favorite update, because we still don't have a surrender button. For God's sake, Slytherin, Broken Arrow, Steel Balalaika, sort yourselves out. I love this game so much. The core game itself is fantastic, but all these issues are really letting it down. So before, it used to be a very difficult decision because Verba plus RPG is fantastic. A couple of Verbas are also fantastic, and 6 RPG 28s are fantastic also. So all 3 of these options are great. In this deck, however, I used to have 6 RPG 28s, and it's only 15 extra points, you might say. However, you see how I'm over budget, you know? I'm over budget by almost 50 points. Now, I still want 3 squads of Spetsnaz GRU, and I still want 6 RPGs because of how the deck is built. I mean, like, I don't need the Verba because I've got Iglas, double Iglas in the rear, so it's just frustrating. So my choices are to basically cut 215 points, which is 1 T90, essentially, which is what I'm going to do to fix it. And it really pains me to do this, and I really don't want to lose another one of these fantastic tanks, you know? So my aggressiveness in this deck is being reduced significantly because of this update, and it's really, really, really annoying. Right, but back onto the Recon tab with this deck. The Spetsnaz GRU is transported by the BTR-82, upgraded to the max, so it gets these Conkers, which are still really, they're not the most powerful Russian ATGM, but they are still really effective, and I highly recommend these BTRs in this setup. 30 mils provides good support and fire. You do want it up armored, because if you don't, armor becomes pretty paper thin, so you do want the extra armor. It doesn't affect the speed, which is really nice. Obviously it's not the most protection, but it helps. It does help a lot, and you definitely need to take it. For an extra 10 points, definitely worth it. I like these Kozliks. These UAZ is the manufacturer. It's something Uralski Автомобильный Завод, so Ural Automobile Factory, and it's called the Kozlik, so which means a little goat, which is a pretty cute name for it. I mean, to be honest, I love this vehicle. It is just, I mean, classic Soviet little Range Rover equivalent, isn't it? Or it tries to be anyway. But 130 speed, which, I don't know, that's a bit sus, because it is an old Soviet vehicle, very old. Don't know if the engine could actually do that, but either way, this is a class vehicle, pretty iconic, to be honest, in my opinion. What you have on it is this missile, which, how do we pronounce this without upsetting anyone? Yeah, it's the Faggot anti-tank missile, right? It is what it is. Don't take it the wrong way. So you get these guys in a rear flanking maneuver, you know, a bit of the Lima special, which is obviously something I love to do. I'd love to take a fourth one of these guys, but I'm unable because of the new point system. Bastards. Really, really annoyed at Broken Arrow for this new update, to be honest. And these things are great for flanking. The machine gun you don't really care about. You could have it like this, but I think it's pointless. You may as well just have the missile. Interestingly, even though this is a higher caliber than the 50 cal, it does less damage, which is weird, but more penetration, so take it as you will. This is also a decent option, but I want this. The SPG-9 does fire direct fire as opposed to guided, so smoke, etc. won't affect this once it's fired, whereas obviously once this is fired, it will be affected. So yeah, these two are both good options, but I'd rather... let's just double check. Aim time, 1 to 2 seconds, reload time. Okay, yeah, the aim time is not good, so definitely want the Faggot M. Right. Corsair. So this is literally the only reason I've got this in the deck is to clear out the back lines for any snipers. The view range isn't great. It's got a laser designated, not that it really matters, but you want to upgrade the sensors for 10 points. And usually you just use it to check for any snipers in your rear. That is it. That's the only reason I've got it. Nice and cheap. Let's move on. So infantry tab, double iglas, as we said, you definitely want to upgrade them because look here, 2000, 1800. Upgrade these missiles. I mean, it's only 80 to 90 points, and they work much better in this configuration. Right, moving on. Oh yeah, of course, the Barbarous has also been increased by price, but only by 10, so I'm not too bitter at that. It used to be 290, now it's 300, so okay, whatever. It is a good vehicle. The only reason I've got Guardia Motostrilki is because I want a Barbarous here. Engineers have also been increased, but only by 5 points, which is fine. I think they are still better with the flashbangs. Right, okay, anyway, so that's the reason I've got these. They're sort of a decent all-rounder infantry squad, but realistically, the best way to use them is that they live in the Barbarous, and then they jump out to fire those RPG-28s, which are really decent. There's only 4 of them, though, so that's a shame. To give this T-15 some fire support. SSO, surprised they haven't nerfed these because honestly they are fantastic for killing infantry, and that is what their job is in my deck. So they've got a sniper, 7.62 sniper, 2 machine guns which are more accurate actually, so look, 600 but wider spread, sorry, less damage. So yeah, okay, these do more damage because of that sight and the suppressor. Don't know how that works, but that's broken arrow for you. Yeah, they've got good AKs, whatever, but ultimately what you want these guys for is this Cornet M. It says anti-tank missile, but it's an anti-infantry missile, so that's a huge amount of damage to squads and vehicles. It wipes out a lot of vehicles first shot, like especially supply, etc. And these guys, yeah, they're just fantastic at killing infantry at range. You could have them in the close quarters, still makes them pretty good, but I'd much rather the standoff edition. Up to you guys how you use it. Cornets, we've got more cornets, not the M, just the cornet on its own, because I think a 1600 range is enough. It gives your enemy less time to smoke off than 1800, and the damage and penetration isn't that big. It's a decent difference, but it's not a huge difference if you catch my drift, so I'd rather just the cheaper version on this occasion. Right, they are brought in by the heavier K-17 boomerang with its upgraded armor and its upgraded firepower. So instead of this little machine gun with lots of sensors on it, to be fair, I mean lots of little sensors or whatever those things are, you just have this module which fires Cornet M. So yeah, the reason that you have it like this is because the Cornet M's on the K-17 also fire at the same time, so you don't need the more expensive option, do you know what I mean? So because you get them on here and they fire 2 at the same time as well, so that's a lot of ATGMs, and Russia does have a lot of ATGMs, but especially in this deck. I got my Sturmoviki, the engineers, the combat assault engineers. I actually wish their armor was higher because look at these guys. I mean, if they've got an assault shield as well, surely that'd be an extra point or 2 in terms of armor. Right, they're brought in by another Barbarous. Again, the way you use them is you put them in the back of one of these, jump out next to a building on one of these, and clear the building. Jump back in, bug out. You never want these guys unsupported on their own. Definitely don't want them out in the open, exposed, because that would be the end of this squad. They would die very quickly out in the open field. Right. Firepower for infantry. These AGS-40s are great. They work fantastically well, and they rip apart infantry pretty well also. So they're the same ones they get on the Terminator, I believe, or actually the more heavier damage ones than you get on the Terminator. Let's just have a quick look. Yeah, they do more damage than the Terminator ones. So as you know, Terminators rip apart infantry, but so do these guys. And I think especially they're more useful for a bit of like a shock factor to the actual player, not the units, not the game, but players. As soon as they see these open up, they know that they need to immediately smoke and run away, which is a bonus, sort of psychological bonus of these guys. We've also got 2 B-15s. Whoa, that is a cool paint scheme. That is, wow, yeah, so this is the default, but you can have it in a nice bright aim here, snowy camouflage, which I'm going to keep because obviously in real life, in the game, the camouflage you choose doesn't really matter, and I quite like the fact that this is bright white on the field of battle. So yeah, again, on this vehicle you got double cornet M's, so the more effective version, with the bullets as well, which are actually really good missiles, especially considering they trigger APS as well. Another update I should say is that the cooldown has been increased for APS to 6, from 5 to 6 seconds, which is, I think, ridiculous. It just means that APS should be capable of firing for all of its charges at the same time, or almost the same time, like a second between, so destroying multiple projectiles at the same time. I don't know why they've increased that. APS has been nerfed for some bizarre reason. Yeah, I don't like it. I really don't like 1.09. I don't know what they're doing. When they've got such big issues to fix, they're pushing away players by doing these silly updates that don't really change the enjoyment of the game, you know? It's frustrating. Anyway, moving on. So B-15's also got 57mm cannon. They're basically the budget version of the Barbarous. They're now cheaper than a half price. They actually used to be, well, 280 versus 290. Now it's 280 versus 300. So yeah, it makes it slightly more appealing. But I still love my Barbarouses, and yeah, this is a good bit of kit. The armor is weak, especially with the APS now being a bit weak as well. So maybe APS is not really necessary these days. I don't know, especially for that price. Like 100 points, that's cheap. 140, still cheap, but not as good. Anyway, I'll keep testing it like this for now. We got to test it in game to see if the cooldown of APS is a huge detriment. I don't think it'll be the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely annoying, that's for sure. Just to finish off the infantry tab, we've got these PTO Metzes. Again, it's basically an infantry squad with 2 cheap double ATGMs. So I know I've got a lot of ATGMs already, but these ones are single firing, whereas this is a pair of them firing at the same time. So yeah, a bit of a reserve unit, to be honest. So yeah, that's how I've got the deck built. Let's move on to the vehicles, which we've already touched upon. I mean, it is what it says on the tin. You've got the T-90 Arenas, which are obviously the good Russian tanks. I don't want Tomatas because they're too expensive. I suppose I could have one in, but there's no point. The great thing about this setup is that they're all 70. So Terminator 70, T-90 70 for speed, which is really nice when you want an armored breakthrough. You want them all to be going at more or less the same speed so that units don't get left out or left behind. The reason for the same speed is because I think they're all built on the same chassis with the same engine. So, you know, some real world knowledge there. So Terminators, I love them. They rip apart infantry. If you guys watch me, you know that I always take them if I'm playing with a guards division. I love Terminators. If they had APS, well, I don't know if it's as effective anymore, but if they had active protection, this would be one of my absolute favorite units in game. Now it's just a unit that I really love. As we've discussed, these double grenade launchers are fantastic. Right, so T-90s is the main battle tank. Like I said, I used to have 3 of these, but I can't afford it anymore. These are the budget version. So budget, main battle tank, supporting vehicles. That's how we're running the armored tab. And again, when you're supported by T-15s and the B-15s and these, this is a very effective push against it's a very hard push to stop, to be honest. So yeah, good bit of kit. This is also 70 bonus. So yeah, nice that you have the same speed. Right, support tab. So this is where the price increases have gotten a bit annoying. So the Grad now, you know, becomes super cheap for smoke, which is actually a really good option, but I still want the I always struggle with this, the incendiary rockets, because they close off areas of the battlefield, and I really like that. I really like that a lot. I mean, being able to deny the enemy an entire chunk of battlefield is really good. Even though now, obviously, the damage is reduced. So, I don't know. I got to test this. I'm really annoyed by these updates, like I keep saying, and it's really annoying. Like, Flame, I won't say the I word, Flame should burn infantry alive. I mean, it was super effective in Vietnam, wasn't it? So why reduce its damage? It's ridiculous, you know? Out of all the balance updates that I thought they'd do, this is not one of them. For example, the TOS 1A has also been increased from 250 to 300, a huge price increase, but they haven't increased the damage, and that's the one thing that really annoys me, the damage is great, but the blast radius is kind of, you know, it's high, but the actual effective damage of the radius isn't that good. You know, it should be better for what these big boy rockets are. So, like, look at the Tornado, for example. Where is it? Yeah, here. Has this been increased in price as well? I can't keep track of it anymore. Yeah, well, it's got higher penetration, I suppose, than the... Anyway, these are thermobaric rockets, and they should, in all fairness, rip apart infantry and lightly armored vehicles. So actually, what I'd love to see is not them just being increased in price for no reason. I'd like them to just be increased in price, but if you're going to do that, increase the damage as well, or increase the range, you know, just give us something back for the increase in price. Yeah, anyway, so it's frustrating for me because these, I love using these, you know, they're not that bulletproof, they're pretty vulnerable as well, to be fair, once they get close to the front lines. I mean, you have to run the toss in the upgraded setup because this is way too close, that's within tank range of the enemy, so yeah, you have to use these with the upgrade to be effective. Again, it just doesn't make sense when these smaller rockets fire further, do you know what I mean? Yeah, whatever. Coalition, something else that has been increased in price. I like to have it in the cluster round setup because obviously these guys will take care of infantry. This will take care of tanks, hopefully. So they're not laser guided cluster bombs. And to be honest, I don't have many lasers anyway, so that's why I have to have them as normal RT shells with clustered munitions. The supply is brought in by these guys. This is just a really good infantry transport because you can bring supply as well as 2 big squads in, so really cool vehicle. This is my big heavy supply guy. Don't need to bring this in because it's like twice the price, less supply. Yeah, more men, but you don't want too many men in one of these because if it gets hit, they're kind of out in the open, exposed. So yeah, good vehicle, decent speed, but yeah, this is more than good enough for the job. Right, Tor. I have 2 Tors. They are this price, they're very good. You don't need to upgrade them, 16 missiles is way too much. So Tor is happy being in this configuration. And the Ante, right, okay, so the Ante, a lot of people upgrade it to this version. I do not, because the 500 meter range, half a kilometer, is significant, especially on this game. And yeah, you can fire this without switching the radar on at a very good range. One of the highest ranges, I think it is the highest range. I could be wrong. Somebody fact check me, but the Patriot's like 4,300, isn't it? So yeah, I like it like this. You're gonna have it sitting on a supply dump anyway, even if you've got it, you know, with 4 missiles. You're still gonna have to sit it on supply. So this is why I'd rather have the extra range, and it's cheaper this way. So yeah, stick these on supply. Don't turn the radar on. They will take out a lot of aircraft. What doesn't make sense to me though is these rockets are twice the size of these, yet the damage is the same. That doesn't make sense to me, but whatever. I'm no expert on Russian long-range anti-aircraft missiles, so yeah, whatever. Helicopters, right, okay, so Mi-28, look at it. It is set up with these. It is set up for the cheap version. I don't want the attackers and Iglas. You could have it as just an anti-helicopter, but I'd rather these rockets because what I want to do with this guy is send him into the back flank and absolutely rip apart Patriots, MLRS, and Iron Thunders at a very low cost. I mean, yeah, that's a very cheap price to pay to do what I want to do. So this is the guy that will support him. So the Mi-24, obviously slightly less ECM, slightly less health, armor, and the speed's the same, which is cool. But yeah, so you send both of these guys in for a cheeky flank and hopefully rip apart a lot of stuff. You could do this to make it even cheaper. Actually, that's quite a good thought. Yeah, I am going to do this to make it even cheaper because I just want these guns firing, really. Yeah, that's a really good idea. Do this, guys. Copy me for this setup. Don't really like the camouflage. Keep the normal default one on. So yeah, I'll balance that. I'll need to take 70 points out. What should I do? Yeah, this squad... one of these squads can go? No, this squad can go. Yeah, happy days. Okay, there we go. Back to a solid 10,000 points. Right, okay, so now we'll send 3 helicopters out instead of 2 for the flanky rip apart enemy vehicles mission. Cool. Phantom. The Mi-24, really cool helicopter. Actually, just, I mean, I love how it looks. It's so kind of like ugly, but kind of pretty at the same time. It's sort of menacing, isn't it? Its face, especially when you put these silly eyes on it, or that's way too scary. What's really cool about the Mi-24 is the fact that obviously I've got anti-air. R-60s are good missiles, usually carried on planes, but you can put them on a helicopter. Looks like there should be a 3rd missile, so maybe it should be 6, not 4, but whatever. Yeah, it's got the Cocon's anti-tank missile, so yeah, this is more for like a reserve, clearing out your backline from an enemy armored push kind of helicopter. Not really a frontline fighter at all. It does have the added benefit of carrying 8 men in the back though, which is really cool. So it's also really cool that actually the way the pilots exit the helicopter, fun fact, the pilot, which sits up here, I think, the gunner sits in the front. So the pilot, he sits here, he comes out through this door, so the glass and the metal open separately, whereas the gunner, he comes out through the hatch here, so this swings open upwards. So cool how they climb out at different sides. I don't know, I find that cool. It's just an interesting bit of engineering, isn't it? So that's the helicopter tab. Right, air power tab. So yeah, new logo for the Su-24M2. Cool. Again, why make that change when there's way more important stuff like cheaters and people leaving? Right, anyway. Su-24, a budget Su-34, and obviously a lot older. A good thing about it though is you get T10 ECM as stock, whereas Su-34 actually gets 5, even though it's a more modern aircraft. Doesn't really make sense, and this is a bigger target. Anyway, yeah, so what you have is 4 clusters, 2 HE, and 3 incendiaries. Right, bombs that you can fire at low altitude. They are high drag, so usually this plane does get away with it without the need for seed cover. So this makes it back alive, I'd say 75% of the time after doing a low altitude bomb drop, which is really good. It's got decent agility, decent speed. You obviously want afterburners on basically the entire time that you put it into combat. The new update as well means that aiming for low altitude bombs is also being increased, which I think is so stupid. Like, low altitude bombs, pilots will just click the button when they're ready. You know, there's no need to program them. They are dumb bombs. They just drop and that's it. Why is the arming time increased? I think that's ridiculous. Really not happy with this update at all. Right, anyway, enough about that. That's a pretty good budget setup. It's not as good as the Su-34s, but it's also cheaper, so makes sense. Right, Su-24. This is Russia's answer to the Prowler. 3 seed missiles, pretty good. And it's pretty survivable because, again, 10 ECM, low altitude, bug out with afterburners on. So, yeah, not much to say. It's fairly cheap, it's decent. That's it. Now, this air tab is maxed out to the limit. It used to be 825, so something's dropped in price by 5 points. I don't know what. Anyway, yeah, so basically to the brim, I've got this air deck, and I would like to take 2 of these, but I just can't afford it unless I take out both these planes to put 1 in, which I'm not going to do. So yeah, this is the best way to have the air tab. MiG-29, cool looking bit of kit. You can actually hire these in Russia. You can take these like as a civvy, just to go up to like flight level 600, which is 60,000 feet. Really cool. Basically the edge of space in one of these for like, I don't know, quite a lot of money. I think it's like 20 grand in dollars or something like that. So if you're a millionaire and fancy a little jolly, take one of these out. Obviously they have the 2-seater version. But anyway, staying on target, the cool thing about this plane is it's not the air superiority fighter by any means. It's actually kind of weak against aircraft, but you don't bring this out for the air opener. Absolutely not. That's what the S300 is for. But what this can do is shoot down a drone with the R-77s, and it can also do really good damage to helicopters. So it's more of an anti-helicopter plane because the R-73 and the R-60 will fire at the same time. So they're both fire and forget, which is really good, and they do 12 plus 8 damage, again assuming they both hit, of course. So 12 plus 8, that's 20. That's more than enough to usually take out most helicopters, as well as the cannon finishing them off. So yeah, anti-helicopter plane is what this is. It's got afterburners on, 10% ECM, pretty good survivability against helicopters that, you know, push into your front lines. Or if Americans feel like doing a Comanche cheeky push, this should rip it apart, which is really good. So yeah, this is how I have my deck now with this super annoying 1.09 update. Feel free to copy it, feel free to make it better. It is just a guideline. Bear that in mind. You guys might have different playstyles, and that's absolutely fine. I'm open to critique as well. Let me know what you think I should change. Let me know what you think works really well too, because that'd be nice. Bit of an ego boost for me. Just kidding. But anyway, I appreciate you guys watching. Let me know your thoughts on 1.09. And thank you, as always, to my generous patrons, Sinister especially, just huge support. I really appreciate it. And thank you guys all for watching. Take care. Hope to see you next time. Bye-bye.